Welcome, one and all, to the MIRTH Web Show. My name is David Batterina, and for the next hour, I'll be your host through exploring the mayhem and insanity of all things creativity. The show exists to help you, the creator, connect with fans, friends, and peers by showcasing not just your work, but your brain, creative process, and personality. Please like, subscribe, hit the bell. We stream Tuesdays and Thursdays, single guests, and then group shows like we have tonight. Over the next hour, expect some deep conversation, some lighthearted fun, and prying open the creative brains of my very special guests. We're just going to go around here to my to that way. This is Jesse James. Jesse, how's it going? Already, this is shaping up to be awesome. We have see, and I'm like, Olyn, no, Olyn is down there. Yeah, or that way. That's fine too. He's there. Teri is there, and then we have the voice from above. Melissa, can you hear us?
Yep, right here.
There we go. Melissa Cave is here as well. So witness protection tonight for you, Melissa.
Yes,
so that's fine. So the first thing I want to do is go around and before we do anything, I want to do some this or that questions, and let's see. We'll do the same question for everybody. We'll just kind of go around and see where we all fall. We'll spend a couple minutes on this one. So the first question I have for all of you, Jesse, I already know how you're going to answer this, but I'll make you do it anyway. Homemade hot air balloon or janky submarine? Go for it.
Is it me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I love the concept of the janky submarine, and I agree with David when he says that you probably die faster that way, and it's probably a lot more pleasant. But as far as chances of survival are concerned, I have to pick the homemade hot air balloon because they have actually worked before.
I appreciate your optimism. Yep. Olyn, what about you?
Definitely the homemade air balloon because I don't really care much for water. So
okay, no, that's a valid point. Yeah, the depths of the yeah, I get it. Teri, what do you think?
Ooh, I think I'm gonna have to go homemade hot air balloon because in theory you won't get that far off the ground before you realize it's not gonna work, and you might survive the fall.
All right, so let's assume a height equal to the depth of a very deep janky submarine. Not just like 20 feet, okay?
Same answer.
Yeah, same answer. Melissa, what about you? Come on, help me out here.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think I'd rather die on impact.
Oh man, I'm outnumbered with all this. At least I get to see like a giant squid or something interesting. I'd rather die on impact.
I mean, there's a
at least I get to get eaten by something interesting.
I mean, there's that too. Oh, jeez. Fine, people, fine. All right, so another one. Here we go. Let's go. Eggnog, yes, or eggnog, no. Stake your claim in the giant the great eggnog war of 2024. Jesse?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't do it often, but yeah, if it's well made, especially homemade, then yeah, we're good.
All right, Olyn.
When I was younger, it would have been no, but now it's yes. Like, yeah.
All right. So we're going. Okay. So 2 for team Nog. Teri.
I think yes. If it's made well.
Okay. All right, Melissa. What about you? Eggnog, yes. Eggnog, no.
Yeah, I mean, if you get it from a carton, that's not even really a fair competition. There's a place near me that sells them in glass jars, and a chilled glass jar of eggnog, yes, is perfection.
Oh, see, that is good. This is out of a carton, but it's in tribute to Peanut today. So I'm just it's me drowning my sorrows over the squirrel in a cup of eggnog. Let's see. Let's go horror or comedy, an easy one. We'll go around the same way. Jesse, go first.
Comedy. I'm very picky with horror movies. I only can think of a couple that I would really recommend. Most horror for me ends up being comedy because most of it's fixed with the proper application of 12 gauge.
Right.
And so anyway, yeah, definitely comedy for me.
Is there an improper application of a 12 gauge?
Yes. It generally depends on perspective. But
okay.
I've seen some people attempt to apply 12 gauge and dislocate a shoulder or end up on their ass. So yeah, there's definitely an improper way to apply it.
No, that's a valid point. Olyn, what about you?
I'm just gonna go off script and say horror comedy because some of my favorite movies are like Abigail and Army of Darkness and Ready or Not. So just give me a good horror comedy movie and I'm fine.
Absolutely, and I would put Army of Darkness as like definitely one of my top 3 ever for that.
Yeah.
Tucker and Dale, Army of Darkness.
Yes.
I didn't see which one was Abigail?
It's like the vampire ballerina.
So, but
Yeah.
good movie,
Yeah,
because
I liked it. I liked
They
it.
kidnap her.
Yeah, kidnap
They
a
kidnap
zombie
her thinking
ballerina.
that they have the
vampire.
upper hand, and
Yeah.
she's
And it
well,
has,
that's gonna go well.
and
All
then
right.
Happy Death Day is also a good movie that I like. It's comedy kind of slasher horror. So
Okay.
Dog
Well,
soldiers.
maybe we'll dip into this. We'll dip into this during the stream for sure. Terry, what about you? Horror or comedy?
Ooh, I'm picky with both of them, but I'm slightly less picky with horror, so I'm gonna go with horror.
Horror for you. All right.
Yep.
Melissa, what about you? Horror or comedy?
Comedy. My imagination doesn't need any help. I watch like a bug parasite video on Twitter and I have a nightmare that night. That's all it takes.
No. It's for me, whatever I've done during the day or watched during the day, if I have sugar at night, like a glass of eggnog, I will have nightmares regarding any of that. So I try to limit chocolate in the evening. Let's do 3 or so more. So next one, spiders or snakes?
Snakes. I find snakes easier to deal with. Neither really freak me out, but I can say it this way: I have multiple snake tattoos. I don't have any spider tattoos.
There you go. Olyn, what about you?
I'd have to probably go with snakes. Yeah. Snakes.
Yeah, the spiders can be a little freaky. Terry?
I don't really have a problem with either, though I think I'd also go with snake. A snake can deal with more pests than a spider can. Spiders are kind of limited in size.
Look, as an owner of multiple snakes, they're really derpy. I'm just saying, they can be super derpy. Melissa, what about you? Spiders or snakes?
I'm gonna, in terms of which I would rather have in my house, I would rather a spider.
All right. I mean, that's a valid point. Yeah, I guess so. Daddy long legs or 15-foot cobra.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go with this one. Medieval wizard or cyberpunk hacker?
Oh, so if you hadn't said hacker, I'd have gone cyberpunk. But with the specific roles, I have to go medieval wizard.
Okay.
I think the magic in that universe outweighs the net running in cyberpunk. I am definitely a cyber psycho kind of guy. I'm a Sandevistan dude over a hack
Nice.
deck.
Nice. Hey, look, slowing down time by 50% and then running wild with those mantis blades. Yes,
Yep.
I'm here for it. Yep, totally. Olyn, what about you?
I'd have to go wizard. I'm not a big cyberpunk type person anyway.
Gotcha.
So wizard all the way.
Wizard for you. All right, Terry, wizard or hacker?
Oh, wizard for sure. No
Wizard for
question.
Nice. Melissa, wizard or hacker?
Yep, wizard. I'm not at all into the cyberpunk thing.
Gotcha. All right, looks we got a lot for wizard. I don't know, man. I kind of dig the whole hacker vibe, and I feel like I'd eat better food in a cyberpunk dystopia than I would in a medieval. I don't know.
Locust pepperonis don't
Shadowrun?
really.
No.
Maybe not. Maybe it would just be protein sludge. Yeah, that's not
Yeah,
that's not all
algae
that happens.
Stuff, yeah.
Yeah. Can the wizard make eggnog? Well, never mind. Forget it. All right. So last one, abducted by aliens or time travel, but you screwed it up.
Mm.
Abducted by aliens, I think. The
Okay.
time travel, that's one of those things I'll never write. It just doesn't, time travel gets so messy, so
Yes, it does.
theoretical physics and everything. I can figure out a way to kill aliens. I'm not figuring out a way to fix timelines.
Right. I'm a big fan of hand wavium with all of that. Olyn, what about you? What do you
As
think? Abducted by aliens?
someone who reads both Flash and watches Doctor Who, I'm gonna go with time travel, but I screw it up because Flash always screws up time travel. So
Nice. Right. What could possibly go wrong other than literally the fabric of everything?
Yeah.
Terry, what about you?
I think I'm also gonna go time travel, but screwed it up somehow.
Okay. Melissa, screw up the time travel or abducted by aliens?
I think I would be more likely to survive the time travel.
Okay, then the alien encounter. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's probably something to be said for that. Like, just what have they done with all the cows? That's what I want to know. All right, so that's good. We got through a few of those just to kind of see where you were, take a little temperature test on all those kinds of things. Disagree about the hot air balloon, but that's okay. We're going to continue with the stream. So next thing I want to do is just go around and 30 seconds. Floor is yours. Introduce yourself. Talk about whatever you want to talk about. Jesse, go for it.
Cool. Hi, everybody. I am Jesse James Fain. I sometimes go by the Outlaw Author because the branding is obvious. Yes, that is my real name. Thanks, Dad. You made it really easy. I write mill sci-fi, military/urban fantasy, dark fantasy, pretty much anything cyberpunk, anything I can get my hands on that has a cool premise. I focus mainly on martial and revenge tales that try and bring a little bit of real-life fighting into your fiction. I spent a long time in the gun range and at the MMA gym, and I like to make the best of it. That's me.
Nice. All right, beautiful. Olyn, 30 seconds. Go for it.
My name is Olyn Moon. First name's real. The last name I got from my dead grandfather because he had the same name as me, so just not the last name. I thought Olyn Moon just sounds cool. I write, well, my newest thing is like a gothic horror romance thing with vampires and werewolves. I also been very much inspired by anime, so I have a lot of action anime type things coming out, and then I'm trying to write a historical fiction about Nobunaga Oda, so that's coming out. Play D&D a lot, so that inspires me to write some things too. So here, there, try to go everywhere with things.
Yeah, sure.
Kind of what I write.
All right, sounds good. Teri, go for it.
I'm Teri Kay Jobe, a baby author. Only in the paper on an anthology so far, but other things in the works, mostly fantasy. Otherwise, I'm known as a audiobook narrator with many voices, some of them very strange and fun, and I probably freak out my coworkers more often than not by all the voices, accents, and random noises that I will just throw into the conversation. So if you work with me, I'm sorry.
You close it out with an apology. Fantastic. All right, Melissa, go ahead.
All right, so hi, everybody. I am a fantasy author, and my debut fantasy just came out yesterday. So, Trader Son, yep. And like, as we are speaking, I just hit 100 purchases. So, big milestones today.
Oh, all right.
Yes,
No, that's
it's very exciting.
absolutely some applause for sure. Oh, that's super exciting. All right, is this first release, second release, third release? What is this for you?
First release, debut fantasy, yep, first in the series. So, yep.
Oh, that's so awesome. All right, cool. Well, we definitely want to dig into that a little bit too, just as we're chatting around with the creativity thing and all that. So let's do that. Let's hit on some of these questions, because I certainly have questions for you all. The first thing I want to do, and just go around, because it's something that I start out with on every show as the first question, and just kind of gives us a baseline of where you are creatively, which is, when I say the word the phrase creative process, what is it that comes into mind for you? And we'll go backwards. Melissa, I want you to go first.
So for me, it's plotting. Like, it took years for me to get into plotting, but now the sort of, like, I type down a stream of consciousness to myself about whatever the subject is, or the character, or the world, or the rule, or it, just that process of typing it and brainstorming it to myself. That's where it all sort of starts. So that's the beginning. That's the fountain. So on that, so it's planning it out, like a little bit like sketching that out. You write it down, like the ideas that you're having, or. Yeah. So I plot out the scene that's in front of me. And I have a general idea of, like, milestones ahead of where people are going, what's the main conflict. And so then when I'm thinking about the scene, it's, well, what do each of the characters think about it? Like, what is relevant in their history that's going to make them react in a particular way? What is the information that needs to be conveyed? Or am I establishing any rules about the world that I need to think about in comparison to other rules? It's just a whole, like, brain dump of everything relevant to that scene.
Gotcha. What about the original idea for you? How does that, is it just like you're driving, something pops in your head, hey, that would be cool, that's a cool character? Do you usually think character first, or like a story or plot first and then fill it in with characters? Like, how does it work for you?
It's the vaguest conflict first. So,
Okay.
like, yeah, the original setup in this one is the son of a traitor and the daughter of the emperor that killed his family. They got married. Now what?
Okay, so now we got to fill in all the stuff and make a story. All
Yeah.
right, pretty epic. I like it. Terry, what about you? Creative process. What comes to mind?
Usually for me, that starts with just the random things that my brain decides to connect to in random conversation. Like from movies I've watched, books I've read, just those ideas of, oh, hey, that would be cool. And then it connects to something else in my brain, and ooh, there's an idea. For the story I did for the anthology that came out this year in Contested Assault Volume 1, Three Ravens Publishing, hashtag.
Awesome.
That's military sci-fi, which is not my usual genre.
Right.
That's totally out there for me. But it's just like, well, what if there's this new technology that some Earth power is trying to steal for themselves? How would the soldiers respond to that on the ship? Because I didn't want to do aliens. That's everyone does aliens. Like let's
Right,
keep it on
right.
planet.
Nice.
And it just kind of went from there.
All right. What about the genesis of an idea for you? Where does that typically come from? Is it just while you're having a snack? Is it while you're driving? Like where does something comes into your head? Where does that come from?
Yes, all of the above.
Yeah.
It could be I'm working on a trilogy, and that idea came from a dream I had 20 some years ago,
Wow.
that I don't remember all of the plot points, but one of the things that was said by a not so great person in that dream was, "And the cattle will still rise," as they're plotting to take over the kingdom. I'm still not
Okay.
quite sure what that means, but that kind of fed into a backstory and a plot, and that went into it.
You said cattle.
Cattle, as in cows, moo.
They will rise.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
No.
things will still be normal, but we'll be in charge.
All right. You
I
know
still
what?
haven't quite gotten that filled in yet, but we'll get there.
I am fascinated with how we will end up with bovine overlords for sure. Olin, what about you? If I say
I
creative
guess we'll
process,
find
what
out.
comes to mind?
Really, mostly I'm watching things, I find something that's bad, I'm like, I could do this better in this genre because it's this cool concept, and I just didn't like what happened with it, so I'll like, okay, how could I do this, but something I would like? It's pretty much like I get inspired, I'm watching a bunch of things, and then that's kind of like with anime, and I'm like, okay, it was a cool anime, but I didn't like the way it went, so how can I do it that way? Or just a horror movie, like, so for
Mm.
horror genres, like, cool concept, but didn't execute it. Can I do it better?
Right. So, and you're a little bit all over the place in terms of like, I like comedy, there's horror, there's D&D, there's historical fiction.
Yeah.
So is it different for you in terms of like what it is you're working on? Do you have a different creative process for something like historical fiction than you would, something
Yeah.
horror related?
Usually, most things I'm more of just, let's see where it takes me. Like, I get the concept and just see where it goes. With the horror historical fiction I'm trying to do, it's so much planning. I've
Yeah.
not really been a planner, but then I was like, I have to go through all these dates, make sure they line up, and I'm not very big on planning, and then I'm trying to tackle this, and it's really making me do a 180 on everything that I've ever done writing. So
Right.
so that's been different. But most other things, if I don't have a basis to go off of, I write and see where it takes me. And then sometimes like, no, this is bad. Go back and rewrite it all again till it works.
Yeah. I think if there's a genre where I wouldn't really be inclined to wing it, it would be something like historical fiction. Like just, I'll just write whatever. Like it's not really
kind of hard.
Yeah. That's not gonna happen. Jesse, what about you?
The Longest Johns have a song called Ashes, and it says the lives and the loves and the songs are what matter. And for me, that's 100% it. I'm driven by the song. I think it's no coincidence that stories are sometimes referred to that way, that they're referred to as songs. So music's a huge driver for me. I'm also very character driven. And I want to say this before I forget to. I was blessed enough to have a early copy of Traitor Son. It is quite good. I very much enjoyed it. And I'm also with Teri in Contested Landing. So by all means, that was also a very good story. So yeah, check it out. Anyway, so yeah, music's a huge driver for me. It's no secret I'm a huge heavy metal fan. And there's some line, some riff that catches me. I am still struggling to this day to find a way to write a story that feels the way the solo in Fade to Black from Metallica feels.
Right.
If I could do that, it would be, I would have my magnum opus. So
nice.
That's
nice.
yeah, that's it for me.
All right. Actually, let's do that. Let's keep it on music. Olyn, what about you? Do you listen while you write? And what kind of music motivates you?
I don't usually listen to music when I write, but I wrote a slasher short story that I listened to one song on repeat, and it was a mashup of Corpse Husband and Lily Pichu. And while I wrote that, it was the only song I listened to, but usually no.
All right, nice. Yeah, I'm gonna need you to send me that link because I'm curious as to what the heck that sounds like. For sure. But you're a silence writer, huh?
I usually have YouTube or something on.
Okay.
I'm just listening to a D&D podcast or something while I'm writing.
Right.
Usually,
something going on in the background. Yep, I hear you. Teri, what about you?
I can't listen to music or even watch anything while I'm writing because a lot of times ideas will come from songs or a certain piece of music. Like I said, it comes from everywhere. I can't stop it.
Right.
And so it'll be good for that scene that connects to that piece, whatever it is.
Right.
But then I'm stuck there. I can't get beyond that. So I kind of have to clear my brain and, okay, this is the story. This is what we're doing. Everything else can wait.
Yeah. But so nothing at all. So silence writing.
Pretty much.
Oh man, you guys are brave. Melissa, what about you?
Yeah, I can't write in silence. I've tried to train myself out of relying on music. So I've been working to get just noise in the background. But if I really need to focus on something, then I usually have a soundtrack for each book, and there will be a song for each character that just kind of struck me. Rivers by Almond Brown for the Emperor. And then when I'm writing something that's deeply his perspective, then that'll sometimes help.
Okay, so you'll listen to that to get into the scene, so to speak.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. See, I'll do that as well. I think that's a fine way to go about it, even if it's okay, it doesn't have to be on while I'm writing it, but hearing it beforehand kind of get me in the mood of this particular thing. But just like anything, you hear one song or one tune somewhere, and I'm just that is inspiring. That's inspiring a lot of thoughts, or a lot of a particular scene. I have one that I'm that I'm really itching to write. And it's a song by Queens of the Stone Age that I had heard. It's not even one of their more well-known or popular songs. But for some reason it just kind of wormed its way in. And now I saw the entire scene just listening to this 3-minute song. Go figure. But it happens. What else? And we'll bounce back around. So Melissa, I'll start with you. Anything movies or shows or media wise that you have seen inspired you or inspired a scene or a character or something along those lines? Can you give us something?
I can give you a couple something. So character wise, I'm trying really hard not to replicate Tywin Lannister, but he is very inspiring.
Yep.
And then Black Sails, the monologues from that show. I don't know if anybody here has ever seen it. Some of the best written and best delivered monologues you will ever see anywhere ever. And so to try to get some of that flavor and eloquence in my character's speech, that is an aspiration.
Nice. No, I have not seen Black Sails. It looks pretty cool. But that's generally not a typical watch for me. I did like House of the Dragon. That was cool. Speaking of Tywin Lannister and all that. By the way, he's probably my favorite character in Game of Thrones just because he's such a badass. So I would totally go with that. Teri, what about you? Anything that you've seen, show, movie, or something else that has inspired story or character for you?
Yeah, and the trilogy I'm working on, there is a magic system. and it's elementally based.
Hmm.
And so watching Avatar: The Last Airbender, that
Nice.
series, some of the things that this magic can do is inspired by what the benders do in that world. But I always have to think in the
Right.
back of my mind, it's not bending. Don't make it look like bending.
Yeah, right.
It has to be
Exactly.
different. So, but that's heavily inspired by that system.
Oh, nice. All right. And you can throw in jokes about cabbages at the same time, and like it all works.
You know, I hadn't thought of that yet. I'm gonna have to remember that now.
Like cabbages, just like a little throwaway line, or something.
Yeah.
Like the boulder. I love Avatar. Like I've watched that just over and over. Like with each of my kids, we've gone through the entire season, and I've gone through it on my own. But yeah, talk about an awesome show. Olyn, what about you?
Anime has really inspired, just watching it, the shonen type of anime has really inspired some of my writing. The thing I'm writing right now, the Blood and Moonlight series, vampires, werewolves, and all that, it is very heavily inspired from Twilight and Legacies, like the Vampire Diaries type thing. Like
Okay.
I was watching the Vampire Diaries and Legacies and stuff. I'm like, Vampire Cell, and then I kind of took that, mixed it with some Rick Riordan's Percy Jackson and
Nice. Yep.
all that to make Blood and Moonlight series I'm on now. That's the biggest one's had a lot of pull from things specifically. A lot of the other things was a D&D campaign I was in, was one of my books was from, and then everything else has just been kind of a broad sense of, I like shonen anime, this is cool. I like horror slashers, so the horror slasher I wrote was because I like that genre in general.
Right. A couple of anime recommendations from you. Something, good story, good plots, good characters. What would you say?
Hunter x Hunter, if you've not seen that, is just top tier.
Okay.
If you like sports, Kuroko no Basket is really good. If Giant Killer's a good sports anime. There's an anime called Baccano, which is just probably my all-time favorite anime. It's short. It takes place over like 3 different decades type thing. Like it's 3 different series, or 3 different eras, and they all connect together, and it's really good. Confusing at times. Outlaw Star, there's so many.
Nice.
God, I loved Outlaw Star.
Outlaw Star is amazing.
Which one?
Outlaw Star. It's
Outlaw Star.
It's a lot like Cowboy Bebop, but more sci-fi.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. All right. Okay, yeah, that's definitely one because love Cowboy Bebop. That's definitely one that I would check out for sure. I grew up watching Star Blazers. I'd like the US version. Yeah, the giant like ship in space, which makes no sense. But like I loved it. I love like all of it. It was good. Jesse, what about you? Anything that you've seen recently that's inspired you?
I don't know about recently. I was also a D&D kid. Shadowrun was big. But a big thing for me has always been Bruce Lee, the Bruce Lee movies, Enter the Dragon, The Warriors, the kind of classic martial arts films. I saw those, and I'm going to say this, it's a bad movie, but there's a more recent movie that came out when I was a teenager called Never Back Down. And it's a teenage fighting movie. But Never Back Down did MMA so much justice. The combinations, the grappling scenes where things flow from one submission to another. I've always wanted to do for like hand to hand what Larry Correia did for guns. Like I wanted to bring in the real meat and have the warriors, but like with actual, not with just karate moves, like with real tight technical fighting. So that was a huge inspiration. Children of Fire, my story in Contested Landing is Rico and Dizzy's second chance from the Starship Troopers movie. It's their spiritual second chance. So I definitely see stuff around all the time that ends up inspiring me. Cowboy Bebop's a big influence for sure. I love the and that in turn is inspired by Bruce Lee, of course. So
Right.
the sly slick characters with some nice subtle humor is a big thing for me.
Well, what I want to know is The Last Dragon. Like, that's obviously got to be on your list.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure enough.
Bruce
Yeah.
Leroy, man.
Bruce Leroy. What about Kung Fury? Have you seen Kung Fury?
I have seen Kung Fury. I do very much enjoy the martial arts parodies. What was the other one? Kung Pao, where he had the gopher nunchucks.
Yeah, the gopher chucks and the cow and the whole thing. Yeah, no, that was good too. There was the soccer one.
Shaolin Soccer.
Shaolin Soccer.
And Kung Fu
Kung
Hustle.
Fu Hustle.
It's favorite movies.
I didn't see Kung Fu Hustle.
You have to.
Yeah,
It is
it's so
hilarious.
great.
It's like
All right.
live action Looney Tunes.
And isn't it the same guy that was in Shaolin Soccer?
Yeah,
Starred in that?
Yeah,
Stephen Chow. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, live action Looney Tunes, take my money. Like, that's all right. Yeah, for sure. The one that I recently picked up on and has definitely like got my mind spinning was Severance. Have any of you seen it? Nope.
I've not.
No, heard good things about it, but haven't
Sounds
watched it.
familiar, but
It's
I don't think
really, really wild. Great writing, great characters. You watch an entire season and you don't know what's going, and it's fantastic. So like I was totally into it, and the entire show is, you know, like I enjoy certain direction in like films and movies and stuff and shows and stuff like that, but the entire show is very liminal space. So it's long corridors and hallways, no signs, no doors, just like this weird, off-putting, like giant room with just like a couple desks type of thing. And that's just something that always fascinates me too, is just like the kind of backrooms feelings that invokes. But yeah, can't recommend it highly enough. Just an excellent show. It's just really, really weird. One of the episode, everybody was dancing to like some jazz thing, and then the next one, like it's just like you never really know what's going on. But totally good. Definitely got the brain going. So let me ask you this. So we got the music thing down. What about deadlines for you? Do you work better under a deadline when you're trying to create something, write something, or otherwise? Melissa, I want to start with you because you've got the release. It just happened. And so were you under a self-imposed deadline or some other kind of deadline for it? And how do you work under those conditions?
So it's self-imposed deadlines. Like I actually wrote the entire series before I published book 1. So I've got 6 books. Yeah. Because I didn't want to be trying to do marketing while I was writing. I didn't want to get distracted. I wanted to make sure I wasn't another George R. Martin. So
that's right. I mean, you wrote 6 books in the time that he hasn't written any. So there's that. Like, 6-0, Melissa. So we'll take that. Teri, what about you? Deadlines, yes or no?
Ooh, I'm going to go with maybe. I attempt to work under self-imposed deadlines. Half the time, though, that doesn't work. But once I'm past those, I'm like, oh, bleep. I need to get moving on this. And that's usually more motivating than the actual deadline.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Olyn, what about you? Deadlines, yes or no?
Never really had a deadline. Most of the things I've done are self-published. The newest one is to an indie publisher, and I've got the whole series done already. So,
right,
like first book's out. I've written the whole series this year, so just waiting to publish it all through them.
So now getting it out. Yep. All right, Jesse, what about you?
I'm going to say no, and I'm going to say no because for me, I tend to work faster than the industry. Like I have written way more, way faster than anybody can edit or publish.
Right.
And that's kind of a struggle for me. The only thing that Deadline seems to help with is my beta readers, and like I don't really have an editor, but my like beta reader that serves as an editor.
Right.
If I look at them and I'm like, hey, I got to have this to the publisher by next week, suddenly it gets read. Like, so deadlines helps the people around me, but I try to have anything written that I need written way before the deadline so that I can get it through proper editing and everything.
Right. And we touched on this when we had our episode a couple weeks ago. But just remind me and everybody again, are you a morning, afternoon, or evening writer?
I am a whenever I can do it writer if it's not the morning. When I wake up in the morning, I'm not very happy that I had to do so. I'm a mid shifter. I work mids. So
Yeah.
if I'm up before 10, like be grateful I'm awake and not throttling you. Like that's the best you can hope for.
Okay.
So, but besides that, if you want me to write in the afternoon, sure. If you want me to write at 10 at night, sure.
Yeah.
You can ask me to go to bed at 5 a.m. Just don't ask me to get up at 5 a.m.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, hey, you got a time change tonight, right?
Very true.
All right, so you get an extra hour. I mean, not really, but like sort of. What about you, Olyn? Are you nocturnal writing, diurnal writing, or crepuscular writing?
I pretty much write whenever. Same. Like when I'm up and I'm not really doing anything, pretty much writing. So, and I get up around like 9 a.m. So I'm writing in the morning, writing in the evening, write at night, write after midnight. So like anytime I'm really, it doesn't
You
matter. I
get
don't
the
have a
words
set
in.
schedule.
All right, interesting. I want to dig into that. All right, Teri, go ahead.
Definitely afternoon to evening.
Okay.
Morning, I don't like getting up in the morning either. I can do it, have to for work, but that's not when the creative juices are flowing, shall we say.
Right, right. Melissa, are you a morning, evening, or afternoon, or whenever writer?
Yeah, total night owl. I do my best
Night
work
owl,
most reliably. Yeah, after dark, literally after dark. If it's going really well, then I'll sometimes get up on the weekend and write first thing in the morning, but that's a blue moon.
Okay, so generally it's like the after dinner, like things are settled. It's just
Yep.
get the words down. That's the creative time. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure how you guys do that. I can't, because my brain just starts to slide out of my skull once like it hits 9 o'clock. So generally for me, like my happiest writing day would be like get up at 6 a.m. and be at a coffee shop by 7 and throwing the words down with like coffee and a sandwich and like, just kind of chilling, my music and all that kind of stuff. I know you just like you recoiled in horror, Jesse. You're like, no. Early. But I just like it. It's quiet. It's like not all the nonsense is going on, like for me, that's just like a really peaceful, like can kind of focus on the whole thing time. I don't know. But some of us, like, just like you said, when you sit down, you can put the words down. Does it take you, Melissa, does it take you a while to get into the words? Like, or you just like sit down and you're just like at it?
So usually I start by rewriting the previous day's writing. So
Okay.
I rewrite as I go. So literally like retype it. And then that helps me get into it and then just flow straight into the next scene.
Or do you write by hand or do you write on?
Retype. So yeah, computer.
Oh, wow.
Never by hand. I could not keep up with my thoughts that way.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't do that either. So yeah, I do that. Like I'll do the review of the last chapter or like last couple scenes, and then maybe some light editing on it, and then jump into where I need to go. It all depends. Sometimes not in the mood to put the words down. So like I just want to sit there and edit like 3 chapters, and I'll just go over them all and tweak and change and whatever. Teri, what about you?
Really depends for me. Like there's some days like today, it's just like I was going through and the words just aren't coming and it's
Yeah.
annoying as all get out. Other days, and I have 2,000 words. It's like,
Right.
whoa, okay, cool. Sometimes you just have to review what you wrote and say, oh, that was cool. I liked that. And just like let the brain juices keep stewing a little longer.
Right. Olyn, what about you?
It depends on how much I have to distract me.
Okay.
Usually,
Yep, sure.
when I worked away from home, I would always have a pen and a notebook, and I got so much more writing done at work when I didn't work at home. And because it was just, I work boring jobs, and so I'm just writing all shift. And then I get home, there's YouTube, there's video games, so it's more of write, and then I can do this, and then write some more while I'm watching something, being distracted by that, so I'm not writing as much as I want to, but
Right. But for you, you're comfortable just kind of moving around from task to task and then jumping into the writing, whatever.
Yeah.
Man, that's crazy. I wish you could just like sit in there. Yeah, let's just throw down 200 words. It for some reason just has to be a production. What about you, Jesse?
It depends on the day, honestly. If I'm writing during my job, which it depends on the day, because sometimes I have 8,000 people to help and sometimes I have nobody to help.
Right.
But most of the time, most of my writing gets done, kind of like after work, and I throw my headphones in. It's late enough that if I've got my little dude, he's already in bed.
Yeah.
And I have the my ritual of getting set down, having the water, throwing my headphones in, cranking the music up, and diving in and trying to generate kind of a flow state and let things happen as they need to happen. Sometimes I have to go back and reference things. That's like that'll kind of throw my flow off. But other than that, I just pull the page up, throw the music on, and let it rock.
Okay. And the next one I want to bounce around just as a question is your view on planning, being a pantser, a plotter, or a plantser. Where do you most often fall in that hierarchy? Like, where are you, Jesse? Go ahead.
I'm definitely a pantser for the most part. Concepts get plotted, and maybe character details get plotted. But once I have a character or I have a really solid concept,
Right.
it's very simply okay, cool, where do things start? And it's, if that's the dragon chasing him over the hill, fire blazing behind him as he gets away on his motorcycle, then that's where we start. And we just let it rock. And the things that need to happen, at least for me, the things that need to happen along the way. And when I run into another problem, and it's like, okay, cool, well, I need a character to fill this. Okay, well, let's make a character that fills it. And okay, well, this is a good place for the bad guy. All right, cool, let's make our bad guy. This is the cool, whatever. It's just fill the pieces as they go. Now, when I start doing longer works, again, I'll have to go back and be like, crap, what did I name that guy? Like, and jump back and, or what millimeter is this steam pistol? Like, okay.
Yeah, it's chambered in 9.2 Jabberwocky.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what we go for. That's my default for like just the fake caliber. Okay, so for you, it's just like, have you ever started a story where you just had a character and you're like, I don't know what this guy is or does, but it's cool, so I need a story where I can put him in?
Yeah, so I don't know when the story is going to see the light of day, but my heritage is Native American on my mom's side, Muskogee, and lots of English and Northern European on my dad's side, English, Irish, Scandinavian. So I had a Deadlands character who I basically made a combination of the Berserker and Skinwalker myths. His name is Rune. And that's actually who was running on his steam motorcycle from the dragon over the hill.
Nice.
And so I had Rune as a character long before I ever knew what in the world Rune was doing. And so I open up with Rune on a steamship because I had promised JR I would write him some steampunk pirates. And just threw him in the middle of, I put him on the steam airship version, steam airship version of the Titanic, and hit him with air pirates. And just started letting it rip. And then the whole thing he was doing was, I decided he's a monster hunter and he was trying to get to Richmond so he could hunt a dragon. That's how the dragon comes in.
Right.
And, so it's just, I've definitely started with just a character or just a concept. Drop Troopers was just a concept. And it's like, okay, what am I going to do with it? And got it running.
Epic. All right, Olyn, what about you? I guess the first one is pants, plot, plants, and
it's mostly definitely pantser. Like, I just think of a concept and run with it most of the time. Like, and then there'll be times like, oh, this thing happened, but I need something, so I have to go back and rewrite something so this part can happen that I come to, because I realize like, oh, it's going this way. I need to make it go that way from this part.
Right. Life of a pantser. I mean, really, like that's kind of what it's like. You're like, well, I've got a few dots I need to connect now.
Yep.
Yeah. What about you? Have you ever started something where you just had an idea for a character and were like, I need to put this character in something?
Actually, yeah. My slasher, like, because my friend wanted me to write a slasher for them. So I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, I have the character, someone who is going around killing students. Where do I go with that? Oh,
Right.
teacher at a school, and she kills the people in detention. There we go.
Oh, all right.
That and it came from there. Like they get locked in the school, get killed one by one.
All right. Yep. There you go. Yeah, I think I've been to that detention. Terry, what about you? Pants or plot or plants?
You know, I was thinking about this, and I was originally going to say, "Oh, pants," but the more I think about it and hearing people talk, I think I'm a plantster, to be
Yeah.
honest. Like this trilogy I'm working on, the first 2 books anyway, were roughly planned. Like we're going to hit this beat, this beat, and this beat. But my
Sure.
characters have a tendency to do things I don't expect them to do, like
Yeah.
survive the book. So I have an extra character who I had planned was, "Oh, you're gonna die in book 2." Nope, he is currently traveling with the group. I'm like, "Well, what do I do with you now?" Okay. And just logic takes over from there.
Right. So you start like the next book and you're sitting there with your characters like, despite my best efforts, you're all still here.
Pretty
So
much. Or
where
it's
does it
like
go
I
next?
got to the end of book 2, realized this is not where I anticipated this ending was going to be. Well, now I have to write a whole nother book to
Yeah.
get them where they need to be.
See, okay. So yeah, there's major pantser energy in there for sure. But yeah, especially when you go like second part of the story, third part of the story, or you're
Mhm.
connecting with like an epilogue or a prologue, like there needs to be there a little bit of plotting is, it's nothing that
Yeah.
anybody should be afraid of or anything like that. Melissa, what about you? Are you more on the plotting or the planting or the pantsing on your work?
I'd say intermediate plotting, because I
Okay.
don't plot like the entire story all the way to the end before I start writing. I usually have like a list of milestones of events in roughly chronological order that just like, if you were to ask me character occurs to me first, it's the setting or like a scene
Mm.
will occur to me first. And then I figure out where it fits in because I've already got my characters. I've had them for so long that yeah, it's
Right.
not a question of characters. So usually it's like the milestone of events, and then as I approach the events and I'm writing each chapter, then I get it like deep into the plotting of like that's usually the first draft of the scene is really the plotting of it, saying that she does this, he does that, she says this because blah 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 blah. And so
Right.
usually that turns into the first draft, which makes the first draft that much easier to write, really. So
Yeah, no, I would totally agree with that. Actually, I write very similarly to that myself, where, I have the beats that I need to hit, for the story. For me, I know before I even start putting the words down, I know where the story starts and I know exactly how I want it to end. And so like I'll start with that framework and then be like, all right, well, if this is going to happen, what are the marks in between that I need to hit? And those will be roughly like quarterly in the novel. And then in that quarter, I'm like, all right, I probably have about 7 or 8 chapters here. What needs to happen in each of those? But like, I'm not looking that far ahead. I don't look more with my flashlight. I can see maybe 2 chapters ahead, and then I'm not really sure. And I try not to plot because I don't want to restrict myself too much to that because I've made that mistake before. What about so you said scene a lot of time is the first thing for you that you're going to
yeah.
get down.
Yeah, just like different interactions between the characters, and sometimes it's just a cool thing that will happen, or other things it's like I've got milestones in my head, and then the connective tissue between them will just like spring into my mind at 3:00 in the morning.
Of course, always. Yeah, okay. So let me go around again, and I want to ask you this one, just in terms of emotional states that you're creating in. Are you able to write or create while you were bored, depressed, angry, frustrated, or what have you? Have you had moments where you've tried and it hasn't worked? Um, what is that like for you when you're feeling something that's perhaps like a little bit more intense or out of the ordinary? And are you able to create through it? So Jesse, go ahead.
The vast majority of the time, I am able to work through it, and I credit that to like again, martial arts, some of the jobs I had that were very stressful, either physically or mentally, that had people in my face, stuff like that. On occasion, I will find myself either so tired or so just incredibly frustrated with something that I can't deal with it. But the vast majority of the time, I always work on channeling back into that like creative kind of flow state.
Right.
And I just try to get back to that. And thankfully, my Zen holds out most of the time, or, I'd be in jail and there'd be a lot more people dead. So it works.
Look, it's a trait of martial arts. And I've we had this conversation, I ran my own dojo for over a decade, and it's fascinating when you find that you're in that environment, how you tend to get a handle on anger in particular, where it's not like it just doesn't, things don't phase you quite as much. And it's not just like, it's not an ego thing. You end up being like, well, it's just like kind of is what it is. But definitely getting handle on that. So I appreciate that.
Nobody's hit me in the face. So like,
I mean, right. Olyn, what about you working during times where you're not really feeling peak?
Most of the time when I write is out of boredom. So when I'm bored, usually when I get the most writing done, which is why I wrote at work so much. Other things, it really depends. There's been times like you're depressed and you just don't want to get out of bed, so don't write. But then there's other times where I throw myself into writing because I just don't want to deal with my emotions. So there's that too. Yeah. So it's depends on where it's at the day.
Okay, yeah, it's on a scale. Sure. Teri, what about you?
I'd agree with Olyn for the most part. It really depends on what's been going on through my day. I do struggle with anxiety and depression sometimes. So if the day has just led to one of those afternoons or evenings that I'm just like, oh my God, the world sucks, it's hard to get into that zone for me that creation can really happen. And I'm just like, I need to get back to neutral, throw on something on TV, play games on my phone, just get myself back where I need to be to function in anything resembling a productive way. But there's been other times that, not as frequently as I'd like, but I am able to channel that into whatever that scene is. Like if there's a really tense scene, I can sometimes channel the anxiety into that. Sometimes, not as often as I'd like.
Right. Yeah, no, I totally get that. And I've certainly done both, where I've had like that day where it was a bad day. But the words helped. And I've had another one where it was a bad day and I wanted to write and I knew it wasn't going to happen. So like, there comes a point where it's like, well, all right, like this is just not going to be my day today. Melissa, what about you?
Yeah, that's the same. And anger and stress, fortunately, rare, knock on wood for me, but I cannot write through them. Like I have to get out of them before I can get into the story.
So conditions need to be creative and you need to be okay.
Yeah. Otherwise, because I tend to dwell. So if there's something that I'm dwelling on, then I need to get out of that before I can focus on anything else.
Well, that certainly resonates. Yeah, it's for sure. And what's funny is like a lot of times the best way to get it out is to write it down, but then like you just kind of don't want to. I always end up in an internal fight over that kind of stuff. What about moments where you feel like, okay, like I need to give myself some grace. Today is not a writing day. Do you feel guilty over something like that? Or do you feel like that drags you down?
Not anymore. I've trained myself out of that, I think, because I've got sort of a series of steps to take if it's not working for some reason. So one is starting properly by rereading or rewriting the previous scene, which usually gives me time to settle. If there's any residual emotions, usually that's my settling time. And then the actual writing of it, like I'll attempt that for a while. And if it's not working, then I'll put music on to try to block out any other distractions. And then if that's not working, then I give myself like an hour. I give myself a time limit and say, all right, if nothing happens in that time, then it's just not happening today. And then sort of my overall view is I try to keep track of the average number of words that I write. So every time I write down the number of words that I added to the manuscript that time. And as
Okay.
long as I maintain an average, then if I have an off day, that's not a terrible thing because I'm still maintaining my average. So it's
Right.
not like a loss. Yeah.
Right. So okay. So that measuring stick helps you that helps you give yourself some grace when you're having one of those days.
Yeah, and just have a day off now and then too without feeling guilty about it. Like it's Christmas, I'm allowed to, you know,
Right.
that won't affect my average, Melissa.
Yes. Yeah. My family's here. Actually, you know what? I am going to lock myself in this room. So, all right. So that makes sense. Terry, what about you in terms of like, did you something similar, like to give yourself some grace? You said it's just like sort of chill out and stuff like that. Were you always that way? Is this something that like you just recognize like, hey, I like the head needs a break?
Unfortunately, yes, it is something I've come to recognize. And it's just like, well, okay, this is what we're doing. This is what needs to happen. So that's what we're going to do.
Don't feel bad
And
about it. Yeah.
yeah, but usually I try to make myself feel better about it usually by just saying, okay, we're just going to watch this show and that'll get some of the brain soup going and I can still stew on things
Right.
that I haven't written or other stories that I've been thinking about for a while and see where that goes.
For
So
sure. I
it's
feel like,
yeah.
yeah, if you're already like in that frame of mind where you're kind of beating yourself up a little bit, like you shouldn't be doing it more by saying I should be writing, and that's definitely something. It took me a lot of work to get to that point, to just not feel like my creative process is what it is and it's unique. So like, but that's how I ended up getting books done. So I'm just going to keep doing that and like try and get the process to be smoother. That would be good. But you never know. Olyn, what about you?
I just beat myself up all the time if I'm not doing something. There was like earlier this year, there was like a month where I was just in a depressive episode that I was getting further down because I was like, I need to write, but I don't want to write because everything's going on. So I had to force myself eventually, like a month later, just to write because I was going down deeper and deeper because I wasn't writing.
Right. Yeah. So it's piling on.
Yeah. So I'm like,
Yeah. See, that's no good. Is that something that's for you? Is that a regular battle, or is that something that's just like, you got to get past from time to time?
I try to not stay in my head. That's kind of one of the reasons I write, is to stay out of my head. And so that's why I know I force myself to write, because hey, get out of your head, write, it'll help.
Right.
So like if I go too far down, get in my head, it just spirals out of control. So I try not to do it a lot. And
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
the effects that it has. And I just experienced them like during April. So
Right. Right. Well, good on you for giving yourself some grace on that too, for sure. Jesse, what about you?
So for me, it's about promises made and promises kept. So if I have looked someone in the eye and said, I'm going to have this to you, hell or high water, I'm getting it to you. That's kind of how I feel about it. But if that's not the case, which in this business, the vast majority of the time it is, you're submitting for open call, or someone opens their books up,
Right.
or anything like that. And again, I work faster than the industry does. So to give a perfect example, Raconteur was doing a Space Cowboy anthology, and they had an open call for it. And I started a story. But at the same time, I was organizing an upcoming project, the Midnight Sea, which Battery is going to be part of, which is awesome. And I was organizing another project. I had other stories to edit. I had other stuff that was due first. And I started writing the Space Cowboy story, and I was really enjoying myself, but I kind of got stuck, and there was other stuff I had to work on. Nobody at Raconteur knows I'm submitting. Nobody cares. They're
Right.
going to do another Space Cowboy at some point, or they'll do something my story fits for at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know I can let this slide and just do something else and work on the other things that are due, or the projects that have already sold one story and need a sequel, or whatever's going on.
Yeah.
My writing, that's the blessing of fiction writing. There's no one that I have to save. There's nobody that I have to, there's no lives on the line here. It's on me.
Right.
And that's how I avoid a negative feedback loop, because I have way too many people in my life, and I've seen way too many people that they get stuck in those negative feedback loops. And so, if my word's on it, I will make it happen. I'll push through however bad I'm feeling or whatever it is. But if that's not the case, then it can wait. And I can go to another story for 6 months and come back later when I feel like it.
Right. Yeah, and you're working on enough. You can work on enough at one time that it's like you can jump to something if you need to, or what have you. So let me go around and ask this one, just on criticism and critiques. And Melissa, I'm going to start with you on this one. And when you get either negative feedback or critical feedback, how do you handle it? Is there a difference in how you handle it now than how you handled it, perhaps like when you first started out in putting words down, and how did that evolve? And so what is your relationship with criticism of your work?
So I'm pretty good about getting it from other writers, just because other writers are more able to give it in a productive way. Yeah. So I've been in enough writing groups that I am used to getting writing feedback. I'm still very much learning to take reviews. Like, this has just been the last, month and a half or so that I've ever gotten any reviews from strangers about my work. And so the first week or so was rough, and I'd had to shut down and walk away and go take a nap, and because then it makes it feel like it happened yesterday. But I'm still in the process of learning to let that go. And I will tell you right now, as we've been speaking, I am currently obsessing over my Amazon rating. So to say that I have solved it, no, not at all. Still obsessing right now.
Yeah. Okay. No, and well, it's the first 24 hours. Like you're allowed to do that. That's totally okay. But you're able to put criticism in its proper place, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think I'm generally pretty healthy about that. I don't know why the low rating people are most eager to jump on this grenade, but hopefully the higher ranking ones will be there soon.
Yeah, I like that happens. I think it was one of my early reviews on Goodreads, and I don't at all pay attention or put any stock into Goodreads whatsoever. It's just there. But I had a 1-star there, and it's like this, you see the person's name, you can go to their page and see what they're reading and everything. They give me 1 star and said nothing. I'm like, well, that's real. Like, I'm sorry, but that's a dick move. Like, that's just, it's like, if you're gonna 1-star it, like, you gotta, just say something, for crying out loud. Like, if maybe it wasn't for you, maybe you had a bad day. I mean, I had somebody that gave me they knocked down a couple stars because the book they sent, it was in the summer, and the glue on the binding when Amazon sent it just kind of melted in the box because it took a couple extra days. So he's like, my book fell apart, 2 stars. Like, well, okay, that, thanks, I guess, for that. Yeah. So yeah, you put them in their proper place. And there's that whole theory of once you put it out into the world, is it really yours anymore? Or does that story now just at that point belong to the readers? And better.
And it does help. The more I get, the more immune to it I get, just because you see the sheer breadth of opinion. I've got one person that said it felt like the book had been cut in half for length reasons, and so it wasn't a really satisfying ending. And another person that said, I don't know if I'll get book 2 because I don't know where else it could go. It's well, between those two opinions, I'm glad you feel that way. But yeah, as the author, I'm appreciative, but people have so many different reactions that it's just it's a reaction. It doesn't really have anything to do with me anymore.
Right. Absolutely. So Teri, what about you in terms of getting critiques of your work? How do you handle it?
That's still something I'm pretty new to. I only have 1 story in an anthology out in the world so far, but several narrated audiobooks. To be completely honest, I don't go digging for the reviews.
Yeah.
That's just not something I've done. The authors liked it. The publisher liked it. And I've gotten some good reviews from a couple other people. The author said, "Oh, we're gonna have to write more of this character because they love the way you did that voice." I'm like,
Oh,
"Oh,
nice.
okay,
Yeah.
thanks. Awesome. I have to practice that one now." And I think my brother-in-law, like, listens to audiobooks constantly,
Hmm.
and so he's heard the gamut. He's heard really good narrators, and he's heard some pretty bad ones, and he said he enjoyed listening to mine. I don't make the mistakes that some other people make, so I'll take that as a win.
Right.
But so far, honestly, it hasn't occurred to me to go looking for those.
Yeah. No, that's all right.
Yeah.
Look, and I imagine it's different from audiobook. I'm in the midst of doing audiobook for Space Pew Pew. And yeah, I often think like, well, it'd be really funny if I just did this whole book in Pig Latin, just to shake things up. So maybe that's one of the mistakes I'm talking about. But anyway, yeah. I suppose so. Like there is something to be said for that, actually, just in terms of being the writer on it as well. Like I wrote it, publisher liked it, I liked it, like I'm good,
Yeah.
and that's there's a friend of mine he's very, very well known, particularly in military science fiction. He's not generally in the group like the Liberty Con group, I would call them. Or those people. So he writes, he's agented, he writes, his books are all over the place, got multiple series and the whole thing. And I asked him this question. This was a few years ago. I was over his house and we were just kind of hanging out and just talking about stuff. And I'm like, does it bother you? Like when people are, and he's like, well, no, because they already paid me. So like, I'm
There's
good.
that too.
Yeah. And I'm like, there's something to be said for that, like he's like my reviews are just how did the book do? Like, did it get sales? Okay, cool. Like then like it's fine. Olyn, what about you? What about critical feedback on your stories and how do you handle it?
I'm fine with critical feedback. Like anything they say, I probably have said about myself too, about the story, about anything. It's a lot harder for me to take positive reviews than it is negative. So,
okay, no, now we got to dig into that. Like, why that?
I'm just harsh on myself. So, like, I'm like, just this isn't good. I'm still writing it, but someone might like it. I don't know. And
Right.
so, when someone's like, "Oh, this is great," I'm like, "Is it? Are you being honest? Or are you just being nice?" Like, so if someone's like, "Oh, this sucks," I'm like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." Yeah.
Okay.
So it's positive reviews that I have the issue with.
Fascinating. Here's the thing that like it does actually suck about being like an indie author or being a self-published author is that you have to do your own marketing. And nobody's doing any of this stuff for you. And part of that means getting feedback that's good feedback and sharing the good feedback. So I imagine that's a hurdle for you. Just considering.
Yeah.
But like posting up positive reviews and stuff like that, it's like all part of the game. Really, it sucks. But
when I get the indie publisher that I'm going through now, when they told me that the ARC readers they had for it wanted a second one, I'm like, wait, are you sure that's what they wanted? Did they read the right book? So that's how I ended up with the series, because the ARC readers wanted more of what I wrote. So I'm like,
there you go.
it was supposed to be like a single book, and now I have 3 more going to come out soon. So
you're supposed to trust that and not be like, what's wrong with you people? So,
yeah, I know that, like, brain-wise I should, but it's like, are they sure they want this?
Yeah,
I'm gonna give it to them. So
yeah, like no matter what, I'm gonna subject you to something. Yep. I hear you. Jesse, what about you?
I don't struggle what to say here, because I have found that extreme feedback one way or another is almost utterly useless. And so I don't really count it, because people look at me and go, "Oh my God, I absolutely love that. I don't have anything else to say."
Right.
Well, thank you. I'm happy, but I can't build off of that. It doesn't help me do anything. And then the opposite was, and I talked about this on my episode, I had a guy look at me and go, "This is utter trash, throw the whole thing out." And if that's the way you felt about it, then you still given me nothing actionable. Like
Yes.
there was no way. I'm not writing a different story. I'm writing this story, and I need to know how to fix this story. And if you thought something was that bad and you were actually invested in helping me, you'd have told me specifically what was that bad.
Right.
So the extremes either way don't do much for me. And I've learned that when it comes to the stuff in the middle that's actually actionable, people can tell you often what is wrong, but are terrible at telling you how to fix it.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, well, I hated that, the main character didn't kiss the girl at the end. And it's like, okay, well, maybe there wasn't enough emotional payoff to their relationship. Maybe I should go in and fix that. But that doesn't mean I need to have them make out on page 365.
For sure.
That's kind of how I deal with it. But I've been in, like I said, jobs and things like that where the pressure was on and the criticism came, and every little word that I ever said was scrutinized. So hot washes are no stranger to me. Like I'm perfectly fine with, like, okay, we want to go over what I did right and what I did wrong. Awesome. We can do that. But I reserve the right to defend myself.
Yeah.
I'd also say that I had to learn the hard way, being a hobby writer for a really long time, that not having someone in my audience read what I was writing was also utterly useless. So, I had a friend that was a great writer, and, we wrote together, but when we wrote together, it was like almost action romance stuff.
Right.
And then I wrote this really heavy action only piece and got her feedback, and her feedback was terrible. And everything she told me to do that she wanted me to do, like, was people in my audience later read it and they're like, well, why didn't you just, and I was like, I did in the first draft, and then I got beta reader feedback and totally changed what I did.
Right.
And it screwed the whole story up.
Right.
So, like, make your 1% of the human population happy. Make your 3 million people happy that like what you like and want to read what you write, and take their $1 and have $300 million. Don't try and get 8 billion people to like your stuff. It'll never happen.
You make it sound so easy to get $300 million.
Yeah.
Saying, yeah, just write it, sell it for $1. You just need to find 300 million people. Oh, okay.
Yeah, you just
Yeah. I'm gonna start sending out postcards to people. If you read my book, give me $1 and also return this reimburse me for this postage. There's that. Yeah, I think, more and more, like as I aged and like did this, and I'll come at it from a different angle, having run a YouTube channel for years and, experiencing like large growth on some videos and like slow times, lots of comments and things like that. There's nothing you can do. Like if you post a video or something like that about a drive-by commenter just like popping in and his name is like Steve953287 and he's just, you're dumb and his video sucks. Like, cool. Like, thanks, Steve. I appreciate that. That's really good. I can do absolutely nothing with that. And like, you're clearly having a great day. So you just decided to target, or you'll get somebody that just comes right on and is very, very honest. And they're like, you didn't start talking about the topic of the video until 2 minutes in. Why are you wasting my time? I'm like, well, okay. It's like, wow. First of all, it's my channel. I decided to just be long-winded for 2 minutes. So I think like I kind of steeled myself towards like crappy drive-by feedback because of that, because like it just happens constantly. There's nothing, like you can't do anything about it when you're on social media and you have some kind of a presence. Yeah, see, I think I know Steve. Yeah, like you've had the same Steve on your channel, Jax. Like it's a thing. Like that's just like a normal. And she's like, okay, so Jacqueline has a plant channel where she does all the plant stuff, and like she gets like the plant grandmas on there being nasty to her, and it's like, holy cow, like you just like nobody's happy. Well, they are like, that's what they're, they're on there and they're like, don't touch the leaf. Like she does a thing where she goes to like Home Depot and she's looking at plants and she'll touch like the plants, and you get these like really angry old ladies that are like, never touch the plants. Like something, terrible is going to happen, or whatever. So like, you never know what somebody's mood is and what they're doing. If you get the critique and it's helpful critique, great. If you can do something with it, awesome. If you can't, also awesome, because then you just don't need to think about it anymore or worry about it. What about so Jesse, I know you do beta readers and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever done one where it's like no nothing, this is my story and I'm going straight to putting it out there?
I have not, and I do that because as an editor, right, because I'm putting my own antho together and I edit, I can print it out and have it on a sheet of paper, and I can find every little thing.
Yep.
I messaged you the other night about a typo, so I can do that when it's not my work, but when it is my work, I miss everything.
Yeah.
And I miss everything because the story's flowing in my head and I know what it's supposed to say.
Right.
And so I don't do that because I would get laughed out of the room from punctuation and grammar errors, and where Word decided that it was ridicule instead of reticle. Like, or other, especially I tend to write in gun terms, I tend to write in martial arts terms and things like that. And Word gets really angry. I also tend to use some archaic forms of sentences. I would throw someone out from the room, not out of the room. It's perfectly proper English, and it has the exact same meaning. But if I put the first one into Word, the Word will get so mad it will have an absolute conniption.
Sure.
So with all that, I can't just bang something out and throw it out there. I've done that before for a free story, but from a professional perspective, that would be negligent on my part.
So what about this? What about not a beta reader for the story, but an editor?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's fine. That's I could do that. Like I have rejected feedback absolutely and said, no, I'm not changing the story, bro. Like, thanks for finding the commas, but I'm not gonna.
Right.
I had to do that the other day with a trailer park story. The character's Southern, and so he's addressing a young woman, and the young woman's in the Navy, and it's not Petty Officer Sarah, it's Miss Sarah. Because a good Southern man, especially one of his older proclivities, he's an elf, is going to call a young woman Ms. or Miss, like that's going to come out. And that's just how the way he would speak. And a beta reader was like, well, is she going to let him get away with that? And on one hand, I know where he's coming from, because I've met plenty of military members that would be like, hey, no, I'm Petty Officer King. We're on the job right now. Like, that's how this is supposed to be. But at the same time, do I really want to take my one female military character and make her a snub-nosed hard ass in the middle of something that utterly does not matter, in the middle of fixing a crisis with a civilian?
Right.
Because we're leaning into a really hard stereotype if I go that way. And so I was like, nope, I'm not doing this. I'm not, so I found a workaround and addressed it in two extra sentences and called it a day. But like, that's,
Yeah. Olyn, what about you? In terms of having other people read your work, beta readers, editors, that kind of thing, like what's, do you employ both?
I do now through the publisher. Before that, I haven't really, because I'm like, I write what I think is good, so it doesn't matter what you tell me. It's like, this is something I write, something I think I would want to read. So changing the story because you don't like it, someone else might like it. So I want to get it out how I think it should for beta readers like that. So that's kind of how the first ones have done. The new series, though, has been completely different from that, because was going to just be a short story, and
Mm.
then I let someone read it, and they're like, "Oh, it should be longer," so I made it longer. And then it's supposed to just be one book, and then the beta readers from the publisher wanted more books, so now it's the whole thing. So this whole series, the Blood and Moonlight series, has been completely different than anything I've ever done. So
Right.
in
Right.
terms of all that,
Do you prefer it this way?
Sorta like it sorta like it makes me want to, expand on things. So like it gives me
Sure.
more focus to go for too. So
Yeah, definitely. No, and look, I've approached it from both. My first novel, I had like six or seven beta readers for it, and I gave them 10,000 words at a time. And with that 10,000 words came an email questionnaire, because I wanted specific feedback on basically like 10 different points, that I wanted to then put together. I'm a little bit of a statistics nerd. So I needed to know, like, if I had, if I basically had 5 out of 6 people saying this was confusing, like, okay, I can address it. If I had 5 out of 6 people say this was awesome, and one person was like, I was kind of bored, I'm going to just leave it like the way it, you know what I mean? So like,
yeah.
I ended up doing it that way. But then when I did Space Pew Pew, because it's just straight up humor, I'm like, I don't want beta readers for this one. I want editors, not beta readers. And then Jesse, you caught it in error. So, like that's great. It made it through. They didn't hold the line. My editors. It was one quotation mark. We missed one. It happens. Teri, what about you?
I'm early enough on in my writing career, hobby, whatever you want to call it. I haven't really used beta readers so far. I'm with Olyn on this one. I write what I find interesting, what gets me going. It's like, ooh, this is fun, and I want to reread this myself.
Right.
To heck with everybody else.
Yeah.
I hope they'll enjoy it, certainly. But
yeah, I think it's an important thing to do, actually, because I think that's how you end up finding the people that gravitate towards your work, that it resonates with. When you're just like authentic and it's like, this is just what I wrote and I like it. You can find the people that are like you, that are interested in your work. It's a little bit more difficult when you're writing to market. You're competing with everybody writing the same tropes. And so it's like, you'll get people that like that, but are they necessarily invested in you as the author? Like, that's a little bit trickier, Melissa, what about you in terms of beta readers, editors, and how you did or did not employ them?
So did, to the best of my ability. I got a developmental editor for the first 2 books.
Nice. Okay.
Which that one, like, I would advise people to get a good one.
Okay.
Because, if that's all the different, a bad one is worse than useless. It's a waste of money, and you don't know until they've read your book and, given you the feedback and whether they're good or not. So mine, like, I compared his feedback to other people that had read it and his recommendations for what in particular needed addressing. And the reason I call him good is that he understood the nature of what was wrong with the story and wasn't trying to shape it to his liking. He was trying to make the best story that I told. Yeah. So that was really fortunate that I found him. And then beta readers, like, when you're first starting out, I have my writing group, but writers are sometimes, they're good at telling you what's wrong, but then they sometimes want to give you the story that they would write.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's kind of a mixed bag. But in general, comparing the feedback that I got from the early readers, I would compare them to each other to see if more than one person had the same issue, and then kind of weigh it that way. And then you just kind of have to take it as an individual basis. Like, there's some people that are not used to reading as much romance as book 1 has. And so you got to kind of take that with a grain of salt and be like, well, there's a certain point where you're just not a fan of romance, and that is in this book. So, there's a certain point at which I'm not willing to dial it back. But yeah, that's been my experience.
Yeah. And I think knowing your beta readers in terms of what their preferences are, that's important too, for sure.
Yeah.
And I can say, as again, having gotten that advanced copy of Trader's Son, that it had more romance than I would normally choose. But the quality of the story did override that for me. And that's also a thing as like finding an experienced editor / beta reader or whatever. Also, shout out to Phil Booker if he's still in the chat. Phil's a fantastic editor. But finding people that can recognize that in themselves and tell you up front, like, hey, I don't normally do this much, whatever. But putting that feeling aside, I think your story beats were on point, blah, blah, blah. Like, people who are experienced are going to give you good feedback, too.
Right. I like receiving both. It's nice when somebody takes the time to be like, okay, this is like a very thought out response about like a particular chapter. And like, that is going to help me a great deal. When I had Hillbilly do the editing for Space Pew Pew, and he sent the document back with like the notes, but a lot of the notes were just like, I can't believe you said this right here. Or like, you're an ass. Like, what he had a lot of commentary about me personally in the story, but like, I was all right with that. Like, if that's the kind of reaction that I'm generating, like, then okay, like, then I'm totally good. So you know, this is all fascinating stuff, and we can go just like on and on and on creativity stuff, but it's getting a little bit later, and I'd like to do a little bit of super fight if that's cool with all you guys. And get some characters thrown down, and let's make our arguments and all that kind of stuff. So let me introduce this real quick. It's time for Super Fight. Super Fight. This creative game pits our two teams against each other in a battle of wits and quick thinking. Each team is given a character ability, and will draw a random location card and then fight it out. The goal is to convince the judge, each other, and our audience as to which character will prevail in this monumental conflict. I like it. Each team is given 30 seconds as an opening statement to state their case, and then we'll have a back and forth free-for-all. Once the argument is done, we'll sound the alarm, throw a monkey wrench into the whole thing, and fight it out some more. Allows for some closing statements. We'll just kind of see how it all goes. Like, it's fine. So each team gets one respin per round on their character ability, because some of the abilities are extremely useless that are in there. So there's that. I'm going to go ahead and throw on our presentation. Okay, so yeah, we're all on the bottom. That's cool. All right, so the way I've got this broken out, I've got a characters A and a characters B, right? So we'll go Melissa and Jesse, we'll get you as team A, Teri and Olyn, I'm going to get you as team B, right? And then we'll have A traits, B traits. That doesn't have to correspond to the A and B. You can pick whichever one you want. And then we've got locations and scenarios, whichever one you want to say. So we'll just add in this stuff and then figure it out as we go. What I think we'll do is we'll start with characters in a location, make our first argument, add traits, make another one, add scenarios, and wrap the whole thing up, right? So team A, Jesse and Melissa, do you want to go with wheel A or wheel B? I'll give you the first shot here. Somebody call it.
A.
It is. All right, A character. Mind you, there are, with these 6 wheels, there's over like 5 billion combinations of different things in here. So like, you may see some repeats, but like, it's all just going to be wild. All right, so your character that you will have to is Hermione. All right, that's not a bad start. Okay. Olyn and Teri, we're gonna go with B for you guys.
Big money, no whammies.
No whammies. Stop. A Dalek.
Oh yeah.
All right, Hermione.
Exterminate.
And where is this fight going to take place? Let's see what the ground looks like here. A deep sea laboratory. Okay. Hermione versus a Dalek in a deep sea laboratory. Team A, Jesse and Melissa, I'm going to have you guys make an opening statement for me. Give you about 30 seconds or so as to why Hermione is going to win this fight.
Magic. I mean, is this even a question? There's a spell for throwing things around. There's a spell for levitating and twisting. There's a spell for blasting pieces. There's a spell for reflecting whatever shot at you right back. And Hermione knows every spell on the planet. She's the smartest wizard in the entire series. I don't think this is going to be a close competition, to be honest. Unless some crazy kicker comes in, this is going to be a 3 spells and done. And it's off into the deep abyss, out the airlock you go.
Melissa, something to add on this one?
Yeah, I mean, it's a laboratory and she knows potions. So she's already got an additional arsenal to her spells. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I mean, look, Team B, that's pretty compelling. So tell me why you think a Dalek is going to win this fight.
Go ahead.
Daleks, they have armor that's impenetrable. They can fly. They're planetary destroyers. They're in a deep sea laboratory. They just blow up the laboratory. They're surviving underwater. Hermione, what's she gonna do? She hasn't got her gillweed or whatever to survive under the water. Well, the Dalek survive in space all the time. She's just gonna drown. Deep sea things are usually the pressure's gonna kill Hermione because she's just human. She has human reaction times. Daleks are war machines. Like exterminate, exterminate, exterminate.
Exterminate.
Terry, what do you think?
Olyn, you hit on all the points I was going to bring up. Just blast a hole in the wall and you got water coming in. We don't need to breathe.
Yeah. The suction cup, just take all the knowledge from her.
Yep.
So we're just saying Dalek just goes for just blow up the damn lab and like just
Dalek just destroys everything around.
All right. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna add some traits to each of these, right? And we'll do Hermione's trait first, and then see if this changes the landscape any. Two very compelling arguments, to be honest. Hermione's riding a hoverboard. You guys can respin that one if you want.
Yeah, do we want to respin?
I'm kind of feeling the respin because the hoverboard doesn't help, and it's a hindrance in a deep sea lab.
It can be. All right, let's see what you get stuck with now. All right, so we traded hoverboard for has literal explosive diarrhea. Okay. Well, we're stuck on that one, unfortunately. But let's see what the Dalek gets, and let's go from there. Like, you got to put your thinking caps on and how to turn that into an advantage. Let's see. Can control the opponent's right hand.
I think we should keep that.
Yeah, we're keeping that.
Yep.
I mean.
Yep.
All right. Team A, like, I think this is pretty obvious, but Team A, Jesse and Melissa, do you have something to say about Hermione's unfortunate gastrointestinal distress and how that could be an advantage in this scenario?
So I think it would be a pretty easy fix, considering, she knows all these potions that we spoke to earlier and the magic. I'm going to be real with you, though. I don't think the recovery happens from the control's right hand. Like I said, unless there was some kind of crazy complication that totally ruined things, I don't know a way around that one, because I'm pretty sure she uses her right hand to cast. But most things prove me wrong.
But wandless magic is a thing.
Now that is a fair point.
Yeah,
wandless magic is a fair point. And I believe the summoning spell was cast wandless at least once. All right,
so here's what we're gonna do. I think for the Dalek, like, you pretty much just like stay right there. Like, we control the right hand. She had Taco Bell. Like, we're in a deep sea lab. Like, you're okay? Is it something you want to add, or like?
I mean, now that she's to her right hand, just like that. The hand's not even going to face to do any spells towards her, so her aim's kind of off. Like, doesn't matter if it's wandless or not.
Why are you punching yourself, Hermione? Why are you punching yourself? Yeah.
Well,
and then I'm going to grab this thing. Nope, you're not grabbing anything to mix anything with it.
Yeah, but that assumes that this is a persistent, like, unchangeable state. The essence of a competent wizard is to be able to immediately counter with something. And if she's got wandless magic and access to potions, she's not going to sit there and wait until the Dalek trundles over there to do whatever it's going to do. She's going to be running away to go fix the situation.
But you control your right. You're trying to run away. Oh, you're now grabbing the door handle, and you can't go towards your potions. You can't even start to make your potions in that laboratory because I'm going to put this in. Nope, using your right hand to pull it away. And
yeah, but is there no spell to counter controls the hand? Like, is that, like, she stuck with that forever? That is an unchangeable condition?
No, I think she could probably easily solve that conundrum. I would say that she could probably solve that one for sure. I'm not sure about depressurization, though. That is a tricky one.
And how well are you really going to be able to focus when you're about to poop yourself?
there's
I'm
something.
just saying.
I have watched more than one man fight through that and just poop himself and do what he needed to do.
Also,
You can ask any Marine on that 5th mile of that 10-mile run. Sometimes things happen.
It's also literally explosive. So, boom, boom, boom.
Maybe it's but maybe it's a weapon. Like, I'm just gonna throw that out there.
It's not a good weapon to have underground or underwater.
Let's do a scenario and see if this changes the calculus any. All right. It's the rise of the machines happening. I think this is pretty much the death knell for this whole thing. All right, so look, I'm gonna call it, and I'm gonna say that we have our winner. The Dalek should probably win this one.
Exterminate.
Yeah, I think so. Let's throw one more out though. Let's get a couple of new characters and new traits, and hopefully not get explosive diarrhea for any of them, and go from there. So Team B, winners of the first round. Character A or character B?
B.
B it is.
Stay on theme. B.
All right. They're all fully randomized on both wheels, so it doesn't really matter all that much. Sherlock Holmes.
I can work with that.
All right.
Okay.
Character A, who's going to beat the hell out of Sherlock Holmes? It's going to be Barney. Okay. Barney versus Sherlock. No, look, he's a dinosaur, and you could get a good trait. Are you going to stick with it, or do you think re-roll on the Barney?
I'm personally feeling the re-roll.
Yeah, agreed.
All right. Let's
I don't think Barney beats men. It's antithetical to Barney to beat anyone.
That's a valid point. An eagle. Okay. All right. Sure. Like maybe just like a big, golden eagle. The ones that like pull the goats off the mountains and stuff like that. All right. So let's go. Let's go with the location for this one, and then we'll add in traits.
Come on, mountain.
Location. Eagle versus Sherlock Holmes in the Sahara Desert.
Oh, well, there we go.
All right, interesting.
Okay.
Team B, I'm going to have you take the reins and go first on this one. Why is Sherlock going to defeat the large taloned eagle in the Sahara Desert?
We've got the brain power, baby. This is a person who can solve just about any problem there is. Dealing with, the hunting habits of a golden eagle, as you said, we're going to know something about that, or we're going to have an idea of similar things that act in similar ways. We're going to know not to be out during the day. We're going to do this at night when it's cooler, and we're not going to fry our brain.
Olyn, something to add?
He's also a expert boxer. He's good at guns. He's got his cane, which he's also good at fencing and sword play. So, I mean, eagle comes at him, whack right with the cane. So, I mean,
I can just picture Sherlock just like swinging a cane like on a sand dune at like some eagle that's just like trying to pester the hell out of him.
It's coming down to strike him. He just like uses his mind to see where the vector's going to go. And
all right, I mean, fair enough. Jesse and Melissa, what do you think? How's your eagle going to win this one?
Well,
go ahead.
No, go ahead, Melissa. You start. I'll fill in.
Yeah, I mean, Sherlock has not been given any weapons. He is standing in the Sahara Desert in his suit, as far as we're concerned. So the smart eagle is going to circle and wait for him to drop dead of the dehydration.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really valid point. Okay.
Time's 100% on the Eagles' side. If the Eagles dumb enough to just rush in at any undistracted moment against a armed opponent, then we're not even having this conversation. But assuming for the functional of making this an interesting battle story movie, whatever, the Eagles got to have at least enough intelligence to know that it can fly and get to places and get to resources that Sherlock cannot. And this is purely a race against time, because Sherlock is going to go. Yes, he can do things at night. That's fine. The desert's absolutely cold at night. It's not any better of a survivable environment, and Sherlock's stuck either trying to have to keep warm or trying to have to not burn to death. and it's going to be an incessant. All the eagle has to do is harass at the right times, and Sherlock's going to die of exposure
and
All right.
dehydration.
Compelling arguments, both of them. Let's throw in a couple traits now that we have opening statements and see where this goes. So we're gonna go. Let's see, Sherlock's trait first. Are we gonna go A or B? We'll go
B.
We'll go B on it, sure. And Sherlock's trait. How about has tiny T-Rex arms? And then that does. Well, that
think,
did
Olyn?
make things a little more difficult.
Here.
I feel a roll for that.
You know what? I think that's a
Reroll
safe reroll. Yeah. Quality call on that one. All right. So I can't get that visual out of my head now.
Yeah, there went the boxing.
There's 3 Sherlocks.
Hey.
Oh, okay.
There's Sherlock cubed. All right. And as for our eagle, let's see what we got here. We've got 3 Sherlocks versus an eagle that throws spears. Well, that's a wrinkle. All right, so re-argue this one for me, Team Sherlock. There's 3 of you, but you have an eagle that is very patient and throwing spears.
Well, you've got 3. There's 3 of us. We'll just put one guy in front. That's our spear catcher. The other 2 are fine. They could be working on these other problems. We can still walk, so it may take us a little longer to get to resources, but find a low spot, dig down, see if you can find some water.
They also now have spears, because if they get spears thrown at them, they're using the one for the spears. They take the spears out of the guy. Now they have long range things for the.
Yep. I would have you've seen Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yes.
Okay. I would love to see him in a scene with 2 of himself arguing as to who's going to be the guy that just ends up on the front of the whole thing.
Who's going to
There
be
would
the
be an
meat
argument. Someone would just grab someone would grab someone else, and then eventually
It just it's you. Yes,
they're just fighting
the
until it happens.
arguments by the different Sherlocks as to which one would have to sacrifice himself would be really great. All right, so tell me why the spear throwing eagle is going to win this one. Make your next argument here.
So I'm going to challenge the idea that having 3 Sherlocks, when of the most popular depictions of him, he is incredibly self-absorbed, egotistical, and possibly a drug addict. Those 3 Sherlocks will get absolutely nothing done, and the eagle can still fly and throw a spear from 100 meters up, and they don't really whistle on the way down normally. So this is going to be it's okay. 3 Sherlocks standing in the middle of the desert versus a sniper. Good luck. Have fun. Don't argue with each other while the spears are raining in.
Yeah, I'm stuck on the environment. Like I did my time in the sandbox. You're without supplies, you're just dead. The desert will kill you. The end. It doesn't matter how. Yeah, the eagle can fly away. Sherlock can't. 3 of them means that they will exhaust any available resources that much
3
faster.
times as fast.
All right, that's a valid point. I like Philip's point of Sherlock with the T-Rex arms became the Barney he once fought. That's very good. All right, let's throw a scenario in and then wrap up our final arguments on this one. So we've got spear throwing eagle versus 3 Sherlocks, and fighters are all swapping traits. So we have 3 eagles versus a spear throwing Sherlock.
Well, we throw spears at the eagle and we drink its blood.
Eagle flies away. I mean, it's really hard to hit an eagle with a spear.
It is hard to eagle with the spear, but also the environment also works against the eagle. Like you're in the Sahara, like it doesn't know where to go either. It works against it just as much as it works against Sherlock.
And Sherlock would know to just wait until the eagle decides to, I think it's time to come down and harry them. Yeah, boink.
Yeah, but like if you're relying on the stupidity of your opponent to win.
I mean, that's kind of what Sherlock always.
No, but I mean, you have to set that as a premise that this assumes this is a stupid eagle that doesn't know to fly away out of the desert. It can see much farther than humans, especially from the sky.
Not just that,
yeah.
there's 3 of them. Okay, cool. We have the exact opposite problem in reverse now. Congratulations, you speared 1. 2 more are pecking your eyes out. And like I'm a pretty competent hand-to-hand combatant. I'm not fist fighting a 100-pound eagle that drags deer off cliffs. And then there's 2 of them.
Yeah, I mean, at best, you've got mutually assured destruction. At best, that is your winning scenario.
Well, you have say that they fly off. They're flying off. They're flying away and running away from battle too. So, like, I mean,
Yeah, but leaving him to die in this particular scenario.
There's that. Jesse, I would pay to watch you fist fight an eagle, sir.
You wouldn't, because it ain't gonna happen.
I really would. I would take all of my money, please. I want to watch this. I think this is Team Eagle all the way. I think. Bravo. Yeah, there's the entire concept of just like fly up there until the dude drops or like has to sleep or whatever, and then claws eyes out. Like I would go with that. You want to do one as a tie break? What do you say?
I'm good. I'm down.
Sure.
All right.
Let's got nowhere else to be.
All right. So Jesse and Melissa, let's go. Characters A or characters B?
Let's do B.
B. All right. Here we go. Your character is. This is the tie break, and you've got a moose.
Okay.
Okay. Could be.
We're just stuck on the animal theme. Like
sometimes it happens. I mean, you can re-roll it if you want to respin and get something other than moose, but like that's the respin.
My personal opinion, let's keep the moose.
Okay. I was kind of leaning that way too.
All right. The moose is going to be fighting. I mean, you don't mess around with moose, by the way. Like they're pretty.
We're gonna re-roll that.
Yeah, I'd be okay with a re-roll on that one.
Wow. All right.
I think we're in trouble.
I like re-roll.
I instantly want to do this short story though.
Stephen Hawking versus a moose.
Stephen Hawking versus the moose.
All right. I just want to look at this scene for another I just want to look at this for another few seconds before I re-roll it, just because of how wonderful that is. But yeah, we'll re-roll that one. So okay, that's fantastic. All right. Instead, we've got a moose and a reggae band.
Oh.
Okay. I mean, arguably better.
A little better.
Like a little better.
Not necessarily wheelchair bound, so that's an improvement.
It's not worse.
We'll throw in the location, right? Where is this epic battle taking place? Reggae band versus moose in a post-apocalyptic wasteland. Okay. This very well might be the first reggae band ever to see a moose. Just speaking geographically, but let's figure this out.
Are they also a bobsled team?
Hey, Cool Runnings was a great movie. All right. Post-apocalyptic wasteland, we've got moose versus not Stephen Hawking versus reggae band. So Team Moose, give me your opening argument.
You ever seen one?
Yeah.
That's an animal big enough to give grizzlies trouble.
Right.
And that has survived outside in the elements during a apocalypse to get to the post-apocalypse. So nuclear fallout didn't kill the moose. Whatever terrible virus that was spreading didn't kill the moose. Whatever, horrible thing that has ended all of civilization didn't kill the moose. And it's a over 1,000-pound animal. I mean, mess with it if you want to. We're gonna have a bad day.
Melissa, something to add on that?
Yeah, I'm going to add on the resource argument again. You've got an entire band of people that somehow have to feed themselves in a post-apocalyptic wasteland versus a single moose.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, valid. All right. So let's hear opening statement from Team Reggae Band. Mon.
Want me to go? I'll go. Okay. So, this is a reggae band that has somehow been a reggae band in the post-apocalyptic wasteland. So you know they're just bad because no one's messing with them, and they've been able to just stay together, form a band, probably protected themselves from everything. So and moose get hunted. I mean, if they can survive post-apocalyptic, be a band, keep their weapons. I mean, a band, they got to travel around somehow. So, they're not just, thoughts are not coming to me right now. They're not soft. They can't be soft if they're in the post-apocalyptic wasteland traveling around, going to show. So, I mean, they got to be strapped somewhere.
A valid point. All right, so, Terry, what do you think?
And keep in mind, it's reggae, man. So chances are there's some vapors in the air. We're going to calm that moose down before it can do any real damage.
We're going to get the moose stoned.
Yep.
They might end up just all partying together and nobody fights anything. All right. Well, we've got opening statements. I would still lean Team Moose on this one just because, I'm in New Hampshire and I know what those creatures can do, and they are kind of terrifying, to be honest, especially when it's mating season. So let's give the moose a trait. A or B on the moose trait. What do you think?
A, I guess.
A. All right, let's do it. All right, and our moose is in a helicopter. Okay, helicopter moose in a post-apocalyptic wasteland. All right, is that your re-roll for the round?
Yeah. Do you want to? I would like to re-roll. I don't see that.
Yeah, we can re-roll.
Yeah, because moose in a helicopter is
it's Bullwinkle all of a sudden.
Yeah, that is legit. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's a logistical issue with that. Let's go. Your moose is instead wearing one of those cones you put on dogs.
I don't think that's going to change anything, honestly.
Not really, no. He's still got antlers.
All right, and what about our reggae
extra
band?
neck armor?
Oh, let's see. Our reggae band is actually a piñata. Oh man, you guys have had quite the rolls on this one.
Shoot, we're stuck with that one because we already
re-roll. So you've got a piñata reggae band in the post-apocalyptic wasteland fighting so
it's just to entertain the moose at this point. That's all this is.
but the moose is not going to be entertained because it's got the cone. It's not going to be able to actually get to the candy once you break the piñata. Entertainment dead.
Actually, to be able to hear their music really well, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So there's that too.
That's true.
Yeah.
No, well, and I would argue that it would be more satisfying to hit a piñata with a neck cone than otherwise.
Well, the neck cone itself could catch candy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but then you're still stuck because you can't move your head down to eat it.
I mean, if it's one of the neck cones you put on a dog, that's very small on a moose. It's not going to get out of the and get in the way of its nose.
You're not making an argument that your moose is choked to death, are you?
No.
I was going to say, if it's the size of a dog, you're going to choke to death, and we're going to win.
Oh, it's not going to hold. We're talking about a over 1,000-pound animal. Like the dog,
right.
If it's truly a dog cone, the dog cone's not going to last long. It's not going to choke the moose to death. It's going to pop.
Yeah.
I've had every dog I ever owned bust those things off in about 15 to 20 minutes, and that's a 100-pound dog, and
especially if you've got a reggae band to smack it against.
Yeah.
I'm on Stario.
Okay, so
some piñatas pretty resilient.
Stario, don't let us down.
Gotta whack those 4, 5, 7 times before anything happens.
Put it in space.
It'll take you longer to kick my ass.
I'll hit you once and you're gone. All right, so let's check the scenario and see if this changes the landscape any. Oh boy. The floor is literally lava.
I mean, perfect.
I mean, it's a post-apocalyptic.
What were we saying last one? Mutually assured destruction?
Yeah.
I think everyone just dies here.
If the reggae band is pinatas, we are, by definition, hanging from something. We're not touching the floor.
We're
You've got
really
four
compelling
hooves on the
argument.
ground.
We
That
are
just means-
also not alive already, so we can't die at all. So we
Nope, wrong.
win by the fact that the moose dies, and we don't. We just turn into ash.
Closing
Yeah.
argument here, Team A. What do you got?
But well, if we're going by the definition that not being alive at all is a win, I would argue the exact opposite, that having a life well lived and it ending sadly and tragically is a great story element that we could have. But on top of that, anytime you play the floor is lava, if the floor is literally lava, there has to be, again, something there to stand on. There's furniture, there's building rubble, there's the whole post-apocalypse didn't kill this moose, but suddenly it's dumb enough to walk into an active volcano.
I mean, it's an animal.
You know,
It's
so
just- he got angry.
all because the pinata pissed it off. That was the
Yeah.
end.
Yep.
That's a great twist ending for an absolutely
Pinata's like,
terrible short story.
It's like a bull. It suddenly sees red for some reason, even though
There
it's
we
not
go.
real thing. But
Looks like the cosplay is starting here. Halloween costume next year. A moose wearing a cone. I mean, definitely. Yeah, definitely. So look, I'm gonna have to call just take a judge's call here. I'm gonna go on the side of Team Moose. I think standing on something when there's lava around, and if you're a pinata, you're just made out of paper, and the heat's just gonna burn you to a crisp anyway. I don't think the reggae band had a chance in this one, but I'm sure the pinatas look good. And bonus, if they're burning and it was a reggae band, you have no idea what kind of smoke is coming out of that thing anyway. So there's that. So congratulations, Team A, Team Moose. I think you took this one.
I think we have to trademark the Burning Pinatas as a reggae band name.
bad name.
Yeah,
What about Stephen Hawking and the Moose?
That would have
Maybe not.
Great comic
it would have
strip.
been Stephen Hawking as a pinata.
Oh wow,
Yeah. But it ended the
that
same
got
way.
dark.
got
I
really dark.
I would say I'll cosplay Stephen Hawking to go with her moose, but I think that would make a lot of people really upset. So.
Probably, yeah.
I'm here for it.
I mean, reggae band as a pinata is basically Stephen Hawking. So, I mean,
Yeah. That was good. See, that's why I like that game. You have those moments where something comes up and you're just like, what the hell? That's really wrong. Fantastic. Thank you, everyone. That was super fun. I appreciate it. We're going to wrap up. So I'm going to give just a quick close here. And then I want to do just a 30-second round for everybody and remind everyone who you are, where you can get your stuff and all that kind of stuff. So actually, let's do that first. Jesse, go ahead and just remind everyone, where are you?
Yeah. So again, Jesse James Fain. You can find all of my stuff at outlawauthor.com. Make it nice and easy. Get me all in one spot. I am on Instagram. I am on Substack. I'm on Twitter. It's all Jesse James Fain or Outlaw Author, except for Twitter/X, which it's Jesse James Books, because wackily somebody stole my name. Yeah. Anyway, my latest release is Contested Landing. I'm working on changing that, but publishers take time. Contested Landing is from Three Ravens Publishing. It can be found on Amazon. It's on Kindle Unlimited. So we do our best to make it nice and easy and accessible. Go check that out and support two of us here. And yeah, that's me. I'm on Facebook. It's a personal page. You're going to get a lot of guns and tattoos and also all of my writing stuff as well.
Some moodangs
yeah.
on them.
Yeah, lots of mooding. So if you enjoy those things, by all means, feel free to add me, but know that that's going to be a much more personal experience and not just stories.
There you go. Olyn, go ahead. Floor is yours.
You can find most of my stuff on Amazon. Well, all my stuff is on Amazon, usually under Olyn Moon or Olyn Cecil, either one, because I kind of rebranded to the Olyn Moon thing. I'm on Twitter, but it's under Jin Kazusa instead of Olyn Moon, because it's just a thing of most of it's personal. I haven't gotten around to doing author things yet. I think Instagram's also the same. I have YouTube pages of Pretty Cool Shiny that I've got some Pokemon stuff on, but also showing my books off on that. I've got my newest book out. It's through Stenotype Publishing, and you can go to their website to find it, or on Amazon. It's called Blood and Moonlight, Legacy of Embers. I'm waiting to put out the second book probably sometime early next year.
Awesome. All right, Teri, go for it.
Hi, I'm Teri Kay Jobe. Got that anthology, Contested Assault. You can find that on Amazon. Got my Amazon page. Ooh, new, shiny, small, but shiny. You can also find me on Facebook, usually sharing memes or pictures of my cats sometimes.
Nice.
Still working on spreading into other dimensions.
Do you have links somewhere of the narrations that you've done?
I'm working on that.
Okay, gotcha.
That's in the works.
Yep. Okay, excellent. Melissa, go ahead. The floor is yours.
All right. Thank you. So yeah, my first book, Traitor Son, came out yesterday. It's on Amazon. So Traitor Son, book 1 of the Empire of the Stars. And book 2 will be coming out in April. And I've finished the entire series. So fantasy fans, if anybody's listening, I will not leave you hanging. There is an end to this story. You can find me as Melissa J. Cave on Twitter, on Instagram, and Facebook, though I'm mostly on Twitter with Instagram as a second.
Gotcha. All right, excellent. So before I wrap up, any closing thoughts from any of you? And the way I tend to ask this is, if you know that somebody out there is struggling to be creative, going through a hard time, whether it is just like we talked about, something that is, depression or anxiety, or just struggling to get the words out and is maybe earlier on in the process than you. Some closing words of advice. Melissa, would you have anything for that person to give them a little boost?
Yeah, so especially for baby writers, go out and experience life. Go see things, go do things, meet strange people, read, consume as much life as you can, because that will inspire you more than anything else.
Absolutely. Right. Teri, what about you?
Even if you're in one of those headspaces that you can't write or create whatever you happen to create, just try to get yourself back to a neutral. Watch TV, play on your phone, let those ideas just stew. If you want to make a couple notes on an idea, do that. Then your brain will start thinking about that in the background.
All right. Olyn, some advice for our struggling creators out there?
If you don't believe in yourself, still write, because there's someone that will. There'll always be someone, whether it's a friend, family member, some random beta reader you try to get, they will like your stuff. If you don't, and you don't believe in yourself, it's still worth writing and getting your story out.
Yeah, excellent. Jesse?
You don't get to quit. Sorry. Suck it up, Hoss. Let's go. Habits are going to make the difference. Believing in yourself is going to make the difference. And if you can't do those things right now, then find a way to do them. Just like Teri said. I had to write several of my first stories on lunch break. I had to write several of my first stories just when I could get to them, and some of them set for 6 months. One of my novels started when I was in college. That was almost 15 years ago. It still gets worked on sometimes. You don't get to quit and then complain that it never happened. You have to keep going, keep pushing. That's life. That's writing. That's everything. You don't get to quit. Figure it out.
Nice.
Be gentle with yourself, but you just got to do it. Nobody else is going to.
Yeah. Give yourself grace, but hold yourself accountable, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say just from hearing all of you, I think one of the important things, and it's something that we kind of touched on in a roundabout way, is to just be authentically yourself. If you write the story that you enjoy and it motivates you to get the words out because you've really enjoyed it, your tribe will find you. The people that like that kind of work will find you because you've been true to yourself through the whole thing. It is different when you write to market in terms of what you're trying to accomplish. But when you're not necessarily doing that and you're writing that story that you want to write and then finding the audience for it, I think that's really key. You got the joy in there on it. And I think people pick up on that when they read your work. So thank you to all of you. I'm going to go ahead and just do the closing thing here and closing music, but hang out for just a minute and I'll see you all in the green room in just a moment. Okay. All right, so here we go. Folks, thank you for tuning in and spending time with us tonight. Special thanks to, well, everyone for being great sports and wonderful guests. Highly encourage you to check out all of their work. I put all of the links that they gave me into the YouTube video description and the Rumble video description. It is also on the calendar on the site. So links to all the things are out there for you. If you would like to be part of the Mirthquake community and I guess on the show, it is easy. Head over to mirthquake.show for all the deets, and hopefully soon we'll be prying open your brain and throwing it on the internet for everyone to see, along with Stephen Hawking and Sherlock Holmes with tiny T-Rex arms. So there's that. So thank you, everybody, and thanks for everybody that popped into the chat, and we're going to have a good night. I'm going to close this out, and I'll see you guys in just a moment. Do